All right, Srikanth Kondapalli is a professor in Chinese studies over at Jawaharlal Nehru University. He joins me now from the Indian capital, New Delhi. Srikanth, good to have you on the show. You know, every time when we look at sort of group meetings like this, whether it's the European Union, G7, G20, the key word is increasing cooperation. Weeks before the invasion of Ukraine, China and Russia declared their own relationship to have no limits. I mean, do you expect this to expand when it comes to the BRIC nations? Because when you look at their stance, they've generally been fairly neutral.
Well, if you look at the calendar of events in the past 1 year, we see there is the business forum that was held yesterday. There was the Sherpas meeting of the BRICS some months ago, the foreign ministerial meeting. There is an agriculture, rural development meeting. There is the media forum, the academic forum, investment forum, business council, and a host of other things. So if you look at the calendar a year long, then they're all stacked up with so many activities, which suggests that they are actually discussing a lot of things which are meant for cooperating with each other. And so like the EU that you mentioned, or other multilateral institutions, there is something going on in the BRICS as well in this regard. And they are, of course, concerned, as you mentioned, about the Ukrainian situation. There is the food prices, energy prices, and a host of other issues that need to be tackled. In addition, of course, as you mentioned, the pandemic-related contraction in the economy. And that is where all these countries are concerned with. You may have also seen the WTO meeting a few days ago, and that is another issue that they have in mind in terms of the developing countries' interests, specifically in terms of the tariffs and the climate change related issues as well. So there are so many issues that the BRICS is simultaneously looking at in order to arrive at that cooperative effort.
You know what one issue is of concern when I look at it on paper? I mean, there are so many mismatched ideologies. I mean, could this not lead to mistrust?
Indeed, you're right that there is, for example, yesterday, President Xi Jinping spoke about everyone should stay committed to peacefully resolving differences and dispute between countries through dialogue and consultation. But we have seen the Ukrainian war boiling over. Secondly, between India and China, we have the territorial dispute that resulted in 20 Indian soldiers being killed on June 15th night, 2020. So the observation that peacefully resolving differences, that doesn't really come up at the ground level. Secondly, Russia and China have been crafting global governance instead of rule of law. And this is a main difference also within the grouping on that count. Then there is the BRICS is focusing on catering for the developing countries, but we have also seen a lot of debts rising for the countries which were involved in borrowing for the infrastructure projects. Not, of course, in the New Development Bank of the BRICS, but in the BRI projects, Belt and Road Initiative projects. Another mismatch, if I can say, is President Xi Jinping mentioned, for example, that there should be no military alliances or going back to the Cold War thinking. But we also see a number of arrangements that countries like Russia and China have made, which results in kind of military alliances. For example, China and North Korea have an unbroken alliance since 1963. That has not been mentioned. Finally, I think there is also the mismatch between what the statements related to an inclusive multilateralism and stalling other countries joining such multilateral institutions. Of course, in this effort, Indonesia and Argentina have now been applying for membership, but a criteria and method is being worked out since yesterday. So we probably will have to also see whether there is a mismatch between an inclusive club or an exclusive, kind of institutions.
Okay, Srikanth Kondapalli, thank you very much for joining us here on the NewsHour. Do appreciate the analysis.